Good morning. Good morning, Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Welcome to our Sunday service on June 11th. It's great to see you all here this morning, ready for our picnic in just a little bit. I'm Steve Runyon. I'm your worship associate this morning. And again, welcome to Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We, the members of the Morristown Unitarian Fellowship, mindful of the rich diversity and essential oneness of human experience, covenant to weave together the fabric of community from the strands of our separate lives. We have a few announcements. Next Saturday, the County College of Morris, there is a Pride Festival, and Muff is going to have a booth at that. So you can join to let the community know that Muff is very open to Pride throughout the year, not just during Pride Month, of course. And you can sign up at the link that is in your order of service there. And if you look at your email blast, of course, you'll be able to click the link rather than having to type it all in. Yes?
It's the 24th, not next Saturday.
Oh. You are, okay. It doesn't actually say that, does it? Okay. The 24th. Okay, so don't show up next Saturday, but show up the Saturday after. And you can get more information online, and also you've got lots of information here in the order of service, except for the strange lack of a date. So, yep, okay, that's great. Thank you. A week from tomorrow, June 19th at 6 p.m., our partner organization, the Gay Activist Alliance of Morris County, is hosting a talk by Martha Hickson on defending the right to read. She is an award-winning writer, a school librarian, and a courageous advocate for the rights of students in public schools. Doors open at 6 p.m., and the event is free and open to members of the public. I should say friendly members of the public. And that is the announcements for today. So now reading together as we
do the opening words first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. If the dates are wrong, it's not Steve's fault, it's my fault. And, there's a reason that I preach and that I work with boards and that I am not the DRE. Some of you are laughing because you know how many details the DRE has to track all the time. That's not me. Don't ever hire me as your DRE. Just got to tell you. And I love that I get to be a minister. I love that I get to be here with you. I am so ready for the annual picnic. And I'm really grateful. We're bridging today and celebrating our high schoolers as we now welcome them into adulthood. And that's a significant presence you provide for one another as you bridge your those who have been children and youth into adulthood. I grew up a Unitarian Universalist. I didn't get to do bridging. We weren't quite sure yet about rituals exactly. But something that we did have that I grew up with was sex ed at church. And I was really grateful for sex ed at church. When I took it, I was like, oh, that's how that works. We didn't have any internet then, and if you could get a book at the library, but you had to go to the librarian and say, can I see the book? And you had to know the title, and then the librarian would look at you like, yeah, and then you might get to look. I didn't care about the book. I didn't need it. I had a home where I was loved and respected for who I was and who I am, and I went to church. And I learned about healthy sexual behaviors and healthy relationships with other people. I was so grateful. In fact, I was so grateful for it There was the day when I was, I think it was in 8th grade, and we were supposed to, my school system mandated 2 days of sex ed. 2 whole days for 1 hour each. That was it. That was it. And it was supposed to happen in our homeroom. Guess what happened that day? My homeroom teacher called in sick. Not going to talk about it. The substitute teacher came in and saw the lesson plan and went, "Oh, hell no." And I said, hell no, what? What are we going to do, sex ed? And she just looked at me like, "Oh, don't you even go there." And I said, "I take sex ed at church." And the homeroom turns and looks at me and goes, "What?" And so I started telling him about sex ed. The substitute went back to the principal and said, "I quit." So I got to talk for the whole hour. They didn't let me talk the second day, but... How you get, yeah. You get better teachers, maybe, yeah. I was so grateful because I saw some outcomes just because I could share from my very limited understanding to other kids in school. It's easier to get information today, but it's hard to find out whether the information's any good or not. I didn't have that problem because I had my Unitarian Universalist congregation. And that's what we hope for our children at all ages. Bridging one another into adulthood, into life, into the fullness of life. That's why we call our sexuality curriculum Our Whole Lives. It's about a healthy bridge to being proud of who we are. Good morning and welcome. And why don't we light that chalice now? I think Iris and Allison, you're going to help me light the chalice up here this morning. And Steve will lead us in the words.
Sorry. Okay, as we light our chalice, we'll say together the words in your order of service. Love is of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Let's sing together now. Hymn number 348, Guide My Feet. The words will be here on that very cool screen. I invite you to stand.
Bye. Can I have some of the little ones come up here, both in stature, age, and maybe spirit? Come on up. I want to read some stories for you. Pick one. All right. You guys like sitting up here on the steps with me, don't you? All right, we're going to read a story, and we're going to talk about it real quick. So this is a story, and I don't have slides, so I apologize, everyone, because I wasn't going to read a story, but then I was at the library, and this book was sitting there on the shelf, and it called to me to read to my friends at the fellowship. So this story is called Pride, the story of Harvey Milk and the Rainbow Flag. Okay? And I'll show you guys the pictures. I'm going to read a page, and I'll show it, so don't worry. It is by Rob Sanders and illustrated by Stephen Salerno. So it starts with a quote from Harvey Milk. You have to give them hope. Hope is better for a better world and for a better tomorrow. So there's Harvey. We're going to learn about him, okay? He's laying in the grass. Harvey Milk was an ordinary man, but he had an extraordinary dream, a dream that would change history. Harvey dreamed that everyone, even gay people, would have equality. He dreamed that he and his friends would be treated like everyone else. He dreamed that one day people would be able to live and love as they pleased. He's riding his bike over here. And what does it say on the back of the bike there? Just married, right? Yeah. Well, it wasn't that long ago. I think they were riding a bike for fun. They had cars when Harvey Milk was around. One day someone told me that I was born in the late 1900s and I almost had a heart attack. These kids. With his New York accent, Harvey talked to everyone about his dream. His voice boomed, his body bounced with energy and excitement. There he is, right? You guys see him on there? Standing up there with his megaphone, you can't, and his fist up, getting people all riled up and ready to advocate on behalf of gay people. But Harvey's big voice and his big dream wouldn't be stopped. He discovered the best way to change laws was to help make laws. And in 1977, Harvey Milk took a big step forward towards that dream and became one of the first openly gay people to be elected to political office in the United States. Right there. Huh? That's fine. We'll get there. Okay, there we go. There he is. Harvey and his friends planned marches to protest inequality and unfair laws, and just days before the marches, Harvey had an idea. A symbol, he thought. We need a symbol that shows who we are and how we feel. Something to carry during the march, something to make people feel part of the community, something to give people hope, something extraordinary. So what do you think? What kind of symbol do you think he's thinking about? Well, he's thinking about the American flag. Yeah, he's thinking about flags. What? Okay, we'll get there. Harvey knew an artist who could help, Gilbert Baker. Harvey asked Gilbert, we need a flag. Volunteers arrived to help Gilbert's design come to life. And together they dipped fabric into large barrels filled with vivid, vibrant dyes. And they cut pieces and sewed until, and they are working on it. Harvey, Gilbert, and other activists had a flag of 8 colorful stripes, a flag that Harvey hoped would give hope. He said, rights are won only by those who make their voices heard. There's his flag. Okay, 8 stripes there. Yeah. On June 25th, 1978, when it was time for the march, a breeze stirred in San Francisco, and the flag unfurled. Alex, can I get my flag up there? There we go. The wind blew, and the flag, there it is, that's the one. All right, we'll talk about it in a second. The flag fluttered, flapped, and flew, a rainbow as bright and unique as men and women who walked behind it led the march. There he is, marching, all his friends there.
It looks big.
It does look big. That does look like a big one in that picture.
It looks like heavy.
Yeah, I don't know if that, some artistic liberties. Harvey and the people asked for equality. They asked to be treated like everyone else. They asked to live and love as they pleased. They hoped the march would make a difference. You guys see it over there? Harvey was proud of the flag and proud of himself. And he hoped others would be proud too. And look at all these people with their flag.
And they got a flag on their self.
I know, they got a dress they made out of a flag. This one's got a surfboard with the flag colors on it. Right? Do you guys see that around town? See? You guys don't see flags around town? And people, you guys don't go to Target and look at their collection there and get all upset about it? 5 months later, on the morning of November 27th, 1978, Harvey and the mayor of San Francisco, George Moscone, were assassinated. Their lives were taken by a man who did not think like Harvey, and did not feel like him, and did not love like him. The flags did not fly on that dark, sad night. Indeed, thousands and thousands of people marched silently, carrying candles. The candles wove through the streets of San Francisco, up and down hills, and around city buildings, a mile of glowing candlelight in honor of those two lives lost. Yeah. There could have been the end of Harvey's dream and the colorful flag, but it wasn't. So you guys see the candles up there? More rainbow flags were created. Some of the colors were changed. 8 stripes became 6, but the meaning of the flag did not change. It was a flag of equality. More and more people began to think of the flag as their flag, and they began to feel pride. They began to have hope. Smells of hope there in the flags. Very nice. In 1995, Gilbert Baker designed another rainbow flag. This one was larger than all the rest. Men and women side by side carried the flag, a proud mile-long rainbow floating through New York City. The flag wove through the streets, up and down avenues, boulevards, and around city buildings. The people demanded equality. They demanded to be treated like everyone else, and they demanded to live and love as they pleased. They were proud, they had hope, and they would make a difference. See the flag there? Yeah, it goes all the way back there, all the way up back there. Yeah, it's pretty long. Yeah. More rainbow flags were made. Some were printed on bumper stickers and T-shirts, and others were hoisted onto lampposts in Chicago, and one was hung on the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. And soon the rainbow flags was flying in other countries like Brazil and England and Israel and Russia and Singapore and Turkey. The rainbow flag was now unfurled on farms and suburbs and cities. The flag flew proudly outside public buildings, hotels, shops, restaurants, churches, and homes. And once on June 26, 2015, the White House was awash with the colors of the rainbow flag. It even lit up the White House. Yeah. Equality, pride, hope, and love. Harvey's dream became a flag for us all. And then there's some information about it. The end. So, I have a question for you. Have you guys seen the rainbow flag around?
Yes.
Where have you seen it?
On the screen.
On the screen? That's a good one. Okay. Sometimes you see them when you're driving around in the car?
Behind ours.
Yeah, up there on the screen. Oh, yeah, we'll get that one.
On our front porch.
On our front porch, we have one, right? Where else do we see one here at the fellowship? Does anyone know? Out front, we have one hanging up there. Now, yeah.
On the book.
On the book, right? Yeah. We have one on the front of the building, right? And I didn't do that one, so. But that one looks a little different than Harvey's flag. What's on that one in the front? What's different on there? Here, I got a copy of it. Don't worry. What?
On the stickers.
Yeah, don't worry about that. So here's the flag that we have on the front here. This looks a little different. Now, do you guys know why it's different? I know you do. I know you listen to a podcast about it, Charlotte. You're good. Yeah, it has these sounds in the. Okay, I'll get to you. I'll get there. All right. So they've added these signs here and this little circle on here. Now, Charlotte, can you tell me? We'll start our way. Right. So here's the original flag. Now, ironically, it used to have 8 stripes. One of them was hot pink, and it was hard to dye, so they just got rid of it, and that's why it's only 6 flags. So then they dropped the teal to balance it out or something. So anyway, that wasn't a very intentional one. But this one, so they have the original flag here, and then what are these 2 flags here? These 2 stripes here, what color? Can someone just tell me what color they are? What color is that?
Black and gray.
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be brown. I think the copier's running out of ink. Okay. Now, what do the black and brown stand for? Black, yeah, for people of color, right? Yeah. Right? They added it there to add folks of color. Now, the next one is our blue and pink and white. Does anyone know what those are for? I know. I'm sure you do, Charlotte. Yeah.
Maybe to represent like the difference in genders, maybe.
Oh, yeah, Charlotte, you want to clarify? Transgender, you're right. You guys are right. Yeah, so, right? So this one signifies our gender of folks, right? And then this last one, this is the newest one. Does anyone know what this one, the circle, represents? All right, Charlotte, give it to me. Intersex, right? Does anyone know what that means?
No. Yes.
That means what, Charlotte?
People's book parts.
Yes, that some people are born with both parts, and it is hard for the doctors to even decide what to call them as far as gender. And so these are all folks, and there's a lot of other flags, and there was a Facebook post that you guys can all check out. It gives the history of the flags on our Facebook there, because there's a whole bunch on there. But that's why we flagged this one. This is the most up-to-date one. It's on the front of our building, and we do that because we want to stand in solidarity, right, with folks who identify as some of these things, right? Does that make sense? Okay, all right. And you guys, now, that's good. Can we stop with it? Thank you. All right, now, I got important, we're going to move on to a second part here. Now, you guys are part of what program do we call in the fellowship? The RE program, the religious education. Now, do you guys just run off into the building and do whatever you want? No. What happens when you guys leave after the service, or in the middle of the service? You go to your classrooms and learn. Now, do you guys learn by yourselves? Do you teach each other in like some kind of weird hippie co-op? No. Some Lord of the Flies co-op thing? No. You guys have teachers, right? Volunteers who help you out. And every year I want to say thank you to those volunteers because it is a lot of work to, they have curriculum, but they got to figure out how to make it come to life for these kids who have a lot of questions and thoughts. They got to deal with my barrage of emails or lack of emails. They have to do a lot of work, and they do it, they give of themselves. So what I want to do is I would like, if you have been an RE volunteer, children, youth, can you please stand up right now? And we're going to say thank you. Okay, now, can you guys go and get a bag? Everyone grab a bag and go give it to one of the girls sit there, okay? Go get one. Thank you all. We have gifts for you. Yeah, give one to one of your to a teacher, to a volunteer. Go for it. And if we need more, I got more over here. It'll be good. Yeah, everyone gets a little spa gift for yourselves. Has everyone got one? If you got one, you can sit down, and that can make sense. Who else has got one? Is Blanchard getting these ones back here? We got them over here. I will tell everyone. Okay, we got one here. Can you give one to Patar and to Rita up there? Excellent. Okay. We have given you guys a little bit of a spa day in there. There is a mask and some bath bomb, and, not like a face mask, like a relaxing skincare one. And there's a Dunkin' Donuts gift card in there as well. So there you go. Very good. Now everyone can sit down. We'll move on with our service. It's going to be a long one. Thank you, volunteers.
I kept in touch and still keep in touch with people who were volunteer teachers in my own religious education program. I'm thinking of you, Sylvia Howe. She's watching today. I want to begin a wonderful moment, this moment of bridging. And I'm going to start first by inviting Jason Ing up at this time. Are there any other of our high schoolers who are bridging here this morning? We have a good group. I'm going to have you stand right here. Now, there are youth group. You've had some advisors, yes? Youth group advisors. I'd like to invite them to come up now as well. If you've been an advisor or are. Right here, yeah. And I asked someone to represent the congregation this morning, so I'm going to invite George to come up. And then with Jason are his parents here. Come on up. I'd like you to stand with Jason. Have you ever heard the term, it takes a community? It takes all of you, and I know this from my own experience in congregational life. When we bridge, we didn't make a literal bridge, but there is this moment that we understand to be a bridge. When we cross from one way of identifying ourselves, understanding ourselves, to a new way of understanding ourselves, and this is such a moment. And it takes a long time to arrive at this bridge. It's a long journey. It begins with family, people who love us and care for us, the people who will hold us when we're young, have held our hands as we cross streets. And then it moves on to those volunteers in classrooms who teach us about the wonder, to know wonder and love and life at the world. And advisors then who help us understand what it is not just to have freedom, but to create community and to see us doing it and perhaps to have their own moments in doing it. And if we are all fortunate, we live life and fully come into community and have the experience of leadership and hopefully gather some wisdom over the years. And so in this moment, we want to remember the blessings of community and some of the specific roles that are involved in bringing us to a moment of bridging. And so I invite parents, advisors, and George here representing the congregation to read now the words of parents and advisors together.
We have given you firm roots in your journey to adulthood, and we can see the wings you have to fly. May you find your talents, make good friends, and continue to grow in compassion, courage, and creativity.
They've offered a blessing for Jason and all of our high school youth. And now, congregation, it is your moment to offer words of blessing, and they're going to be up here on the screen. What's that? Oh, they're not. Okay. So, some of you may see it in the order of service if you have it, and if you don't have it, listen along in spirit, and I'll ask you to make the commitment of this blessing. Congregation, read with me. May you carry the light of our religious faith of Unitarian Universalism within your heart. May it help you plant seeds of love and hope, faith and justice. Jason, you are entering into a new relationship with your congregation, with your classmates, both in your schooling and here in the fellowship. May you all continue to be sources of support, friendship, and guidance to one another, as these people have been and will always be learning to do. We are indeed blessed to have one another as part of being in congregational life. And now, we invite you to bridge, to cross this chancel, this stage, this bema, and as you do, to come to the other side, so you may be greeted with open arms as you cross and pledge to be there for others in the same way that we have been with you. Jason, do you wish to bridge? There you go. Congratulations.
All right, we have some, you guys can look at the things there. We have some items for you. Everyone can look at that up there. But to remind you that you are not leaving us, but part of us, and we are still here for you. So there's some items in here to remind you here of the congregation and of your Unitarian faith to take with you into the world there. So, cool. Yeah.
Jason, that's right. We have one more thing, which is what you have prepared for us. You have wisdom, and we're grateful to have it.
Okay, I'm just going to share a little bit about my experience in Muff. Okay, so throughout my years in this congregation, starting in the nursery where I was crawling around and falling on my face, and moving all the way up to the 3rd floor where the senior youth group resides, I've learned to understand what being a Unitarian Universalist means. I used to think that being UU simply meant to uphold the UU principles and attend services. However, I've come to understand that being UU goes beyond the principles. We are a complex, interconnected community. We are a community that must constantly redefine our goals to best strive for what we believe is true justice, equity, and compassion in order to keep up with the changing times and events. And we are a community that must work together to understand where we draw the line with our beliefs. Look for yourself how much has changed in the past few years. Following my coming of age, I've improved at incorporating my UU values into my activities outside the congregation. From being a captain in my ultimate frisbee team, the Eagle Scout leader of my Boy Scout troop, or EMT president of the cadet board at my rescue squad, I uphold the UU values instilled in me to be a better leader, friend, and citizen in the community. In fact, I believe that dealing with conflicts with an open mind is especially relevant in this current day and age because of how social media algorithms polarize populations through content filtering. We must dwell together in peace and seek the truth in love. As I prepare for college at Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, where I'll study molecular biology, I'm truly grateful for having the opportunity to cultivate an open mind and a Unitarian Universalist mindset because these lifelong skills will be effective in approaching the challenges ahead of me. Similarly to the UU congregation as a whole, I must be adaptable enough to reevaluate my own beliefs and develop a more nuanced approach to life's challenges. My goal is to actively seek out and welcome new experiences as I strive to turn principles and beliefs of Unitarian Universalism into lasting habits that will better shape my UU journey. After all, love is the spirit of this fellowship and service is its law. Lastly, I'm grateful to my congregation, my teachers, friends, family, mentor Tom Moran, and friends who have supported me along the way, and I'm excited for my transition into college. Thank you.
I think that counts as a milestone. And you make those milestones notable, even possible, which is why we remember every time we gather for service, for worship, and mark within it our milestones, our passages, our gratitude. Passages and milestones today. Sandra Persichetti is in hospital. She is on the mend and in better spirits. And cards are most welcome. She's not ready for visitors. Paul Snellgrove has a gratitude for the beloved community this morning. Paul's so grateful for so many folks from the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Their expressions of concern and best wishes. And I feel great, he says. Yay, Paul. I just wanted to mention, he's here and glad to see him. Alan Wells had been struggling with some pneumonia. I think it was he let me say this aloud in the services because he realized folks may have been wondering why he missed the men's group work party. A card of gratitude for Alex West for his masterful AV support and troubleshootings for all of our Morristown UU fellowship functions, with a special shout out for Irene Mendelson and Bob Scott for his help with the South Africa slideshow. So, thank you, Alex. I will tell you, this past week and actually this past couple months have been a heck of a passage personally. If I've been messing dates up, I usually mess some dates up, but especially the last week. And I'm so glad the week is over. A hard week in which I had to make an emergency trip to see my beloved because of threats being made by the employee of the apartment complex in which she lives. It was a hard week. And all that much harder because Katie Julich has been on vacation. And let me tell you, I have a card of gratitude for Katie because I have a sense of what she does. I'm so glad when she's going to be back. And a card of gratitude for the beloved community from Barbara Castellana Stasiak. She is grateful for Morris Knowles alumni who told her about their state baseball championship Saturday and how they will always remember their beloved coach of long ago, Walt Stasiak. Go Eagles. Card of gratitude for our volunteers who have taught, for our advisors. And next week, we'll spend some real time thanking other volunteers. But for this morning, especially those volunteers who are making that picnic possible. Thank you. Spirit of life, let us remember to breathe. The ground beneath us is strong. The ground of community that surrounds us, loving, strong, feisty. And the world needs it. We've spoken gratitudes. There are many gratitudes here that have not been said aloud. Not yet. There are struggles also that are noted in our hearts this morning. Maybe not voiced yet. And our souls are blessed, even if we don't believe in souls per se. There's this way we are together that makes us soulful, that brings whatever it is we call soul in us alive. Others have all this talk about saving souls. Saving souls. I don't think we're here to save souls like Sunday clothes that eventually wear out. We're made wear them? No, to be them. Souls come with lifetime guarantees. They don't wear out. We don't need to save our souls for anything, put them in boxes, away, hidden under the bed or something. No, our lives are meant to be poured out like rain on a starving earth in a world with people longing for a drink of flowing love, of water, of life. Let's give our souls away. Let's pass our souls out like a chalice flame. Let's sing our souls out alive together like we did so beautifully just moments ago. Souls were made for hearing. Souls were made for risking. Souls were made for asking questions. Souls were made for finding forgiveness or making amends. In Spirit of Life, those men, they're talking about saving souls. But you know what? They have the look of bullies who blow out candles before you sing happy birthday. They want the world to be in some sort of alphabetical order. No, Spirit of Life, I will spend my soul. Let us spend our souls playing it out, pouring it out, our lives out into the world. Perhaps spraying it like a can of sticky string so we catch all of the beauty and joy. Every last bit that we can live. For all the prayers and thoughts and meditations, spoken and silent, the joys, the sorrows, the gratitudes, the struggles. We have gathered and we are blessed. So be it. Amen. Blessed be.
As the choir comes to offer our offertory music, How Different Can We Be? Let's be reminded of what the banner back there says about that. We need not think alike to love alike. Our offering today will be split 50-50 with the Unitarian Universalist Ministry for the Earth. Umphy? Is that how that's pronounced? Umphy? Okay.
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
UUMFE is a seedbed for spiritual grounding and education that inspires deep practices of earth care, justice, and flourishing for all. Instructions for giving other than in the basket are found in your order of service.
Thank you, choir. I love hearing you sing. I missed the singing during the pandemic when we were together and hearing our voices together as one. I just loved that. I'm excited about some things that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I'm glad that we got the correct dates on the booth for the Pride Festival, 24th, right? Okay, I gotta put that in my head. And actually, I'm looking at Gordon Sauer here with Gamic. Just wave at folks a little bit, Gordon. They're okay. And I'm just pointing out because it's on the 19th that the speaker is coming in and will be in here. And I'm thinking a lot about what it means for us to be visible during the Pride Week or Pride festivals, Pride parades. It was an important part of my life. But before Pride made it to my hometown, there was my Unitarian Universalist congregation. And as I talked about, we had sex ed at church. Back then we used to call it our whole life, not our whole lives, about your sexuality. Now we call it our whole lives. It was really an important experience for me. And later, in my hometown, finally we had a Pride parade. And I remember I knew a couple of the organizers, and they got a parade permit for a Pride parade. But when the police found out it was for gay and lesbian folks, queer folks, and the police did not mean that in a nice way at the time, they canceled the permit. Let me tell you, we marched anyway. There were actually, I think, 200 people in the parade, and there were 100 of us who watched the parade. My hometown in Columbus, Ohio, right before the pandemic arrived, has a Pride parade now in which there are about 10,000 people in the parade, and 500,000 people come from all over to see it. It's quite a change. I'm thinking a lot about how important it is to talk about Pride. You know, it was not easy when I was a kid, in part because, let me tell you something about having taken AYS, as we called it back then. It was a great experience growing up Unitarian Universalist because I always had questions. And at school, they didn't like my questions and often just asked me to stop talking. And that never happened at the First Unitarian Universalist Church. The teachers, the advisors in my youth group loved my questions. So I took that sexuality education class, and one of the important things to tell you about my experience, especially as I'm thinking about Pride today, was that when they got to the part about how people identify themselves, or their identity as a person who might be gay or lesbian or straight, they also talked about how people identified other ways, and one of the ways they talked about was bisexuality. Now, let me tell you, the minute I heard that as a 12-year-old, I was like, oh my God, there's something there's a name for how I experience myself sexually in the world. Oh my gosh, it was such a relief. Not that I talked about it in that public school class. That seemed a little more than perhaps my classmates could handle. But I was at home in myself and in a Unitarian Universalist family in which I was loved and cared for. And I can tell you that in the 1970s, when I was a high schooler, and I dated boys, I dated girls, I gave the entire neighborhood plenty to talk about. They didn't know what to do with me in those days. My family loved me, my church loved me, and I knew I was okay. And isn't that what we're here for? One of the things. It got harder, though, as I got older. And I learned about, for example, where does the word pride come from? It's the name of a parade that happened it came out of the values of a parade. It was called the Christopher Day Parade initially, but it became what's known as the Pride Parade because pride, the values of being true to who we are and allowing ourselves to experience joy. Basic values of pride. And the thing is that's not just about people who might call themselves queer. I call myself self-queer. It's for all of us, straight, queer, gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, asexual, however we find our identities. There's probably about 70, there's more than 70 now, I know, ways of describing ourselves. I went to the Pride Parade in San Francisco in 1987. I was on a business trip as a jeweler, and I was like, oh my gosh, the Pride Parade. And the one in Columbus had kind of fizzled out, and then after a couple of years, because the police were around and we really didn't want to get beat up. So it was really fun to be in a Pride Parade. And I remember saying, we're here, we're queer, get over it. And we put our arms, our fists in the air, not as a threat, but as a way of reclaiming our own power, a kind of power that was being taken from us. The reason for the original Pride Parade was because of a bar, basically, called the Stonewall, which was raided every week, usually too early to really bother too many of the patrons. But one day, the police, for whatever reason, decided they'd raid it a little later than they usually did, and they didn't take a payoff from the mafia, which ran the bar. Instead, they decided they were really going to make those queers understand what was wrong with them. This time when they raided, though, the patrons, the gay men, lesbian women, the transgender people, the non-binary people, the drag artists, they'd had enough. And they knew they had enough because one of the police officers, they were being peaceful, doing what the police told them, and then one of the officers shoved a drag queen. She took her purse and hit the officer on the head. I totally understand that. He, in return, took a baton out and struck hard this drag performer. Well, that was it. The lesbians were like, oh no, that's not happening. And they started pushing back. And then the drag performers all got together and started doing a kick line together. The police were enraged that they would do that. They felt they were being made fun of. Maybe they were. Boy, snowflakes. Talk about snowflakes, those cops. They started beating on the protesters. The word had gotten out. People were calling each other. Thousands of people were showing up to what the police called a riot. The police instigated the riot. They started it and had been starting it for a century. And the people resisted. Starting with the drag performers, transgender people. Those were the people who finally said enough and brought us together. So by the end of that night, the police realized if they were going to continue to do what they were doing, they were going to get beat up or they were going to start shooting, and that wasn't going to work. Nobody was going to tolerate that. So it was a turning point in American culture when folks could begin reclaiming the word queer, reclaiming our own power, refusing to accept the shame from others. So Nick made a sticker a couple weeks ago. It's all of those complicated colors on that flag. It's a graphic artist's nightmare, those colors, I gotta say. And there's a fist in the top of it. And I know when I saw the sticker, I put the sticker, I was like, oh, we made a sticker out of it. I was so excited about it. I put it on my laptop. This was about 2.5 weeks ago. Because I was remembering that parade, that Pride Parade in San Francisco I went to, and how good it felt to allow myself just to have my own power back as a queer person. I didn't talk much about it. I'm actually kind of old school, and I'm in a relationship with a woman at this point who's the love of my life. But as I said, in high school I gave everybody plenty to talk about. The other reason I share this with you today, come out, is because I have a daughter and her partner, my children. And my daughter, by the way, my daughter's name is Susan B., named after the Unitarian feminist, and whose last name was Anthony. And then I had the actual joy then of going to serve the First Unitarian Church in Rochester, where she'd been a member, so that was pretty cool. I need to be in solidarity with my own family. I need to be in solidarity with you because there are people in this community who understand themselves as transgender people or non-binary people. And I want to be a symbol. I want to be a partner in helping others understand that we're beautiful. It's good that we're here, that we know joy in life, that we create community in which we practice kindness and compassion and allow each other to find who we are in life. And important to stand in solidarity as recently states in the United States are passing laws banning gender-affirming treatments for minors, even though the American Medical Association or the American Academy of Pediatrics has said, please don't do this. You're hurting people. 7 states have passed bathroom bills. What did you do? You as a congregation figured out how to make sure that the new wing you're building will have bathrooms that anybody can use and feel safe in using them. You guys rock. Tennessee passed a law banning public drag shows. It was fortunately knocked down. Nick suggested, let's have a drag story hour. And so we did. Thank you. Again, congregation. To quote the ACLU, the laws that are being passed purely for political purposes, purely as a way of driving a wedge between us, are cruel, unconstitutional, will lead to more suicides. So that's why I come out today. I'm kind of old school. I'd rather not in some ways. Actually, I don't really need to. I could pass, but that would be wrong. We all need to be in solidarity. Straight, gay, don't know, however you might describe your identity. This way of being prideful together, being proud of who we are. It's a way of loving life and allowing one another to know joy, to practice hope. Fortunately, there are mainstream denominations like Unitarian Universalist Association or the United Church of Christ. There's Reformed Judaism. All support sexual and gender rights, especially the rights of transgender people and non-binary people. And just as a note, before I finish up, for those who are using the identity of transgender people as a way of driving a wedge between the people of this country. Let me point out, actually, my partner is a scholar of sexuality in the Bible. And she mentions, Deborah Hafner mentions, that the Bible has more than 2 genders in it. There are clues in Scripture that the ancients recognized the beauty of diverse gender expression. God is referred to by many genders in the Bible: male, father king; female, mother, source of wisdom, Shekinah; non-gendered, teacher, creator, ruler, friend. In Genesis 2, the Hebrew word for the first human being includes people of an inclusive gender, all created in God's image. Paul says in the New Testament, the writer of one of the letters in that collection, declares that the days of the Messiah, when they arrive, will mean there is no longer Jew or Greek, no longer slave or free, no longer male or female. We will all be one. The book of Isaiah talks about eunuchs, a gender minority of their time. And in the story in Isaiah, God says to the eunuchs who keep my Sabbath, who choose the things that please me and hold fast my covenant, I will give in my house and within my walls a monument and a name better than sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name. Yeah, so the rigid gender thing, that's not a Christian thing. I don't know what it is, but it's not good. I'm so proud and so grateful for this congregation, for your support of pride and love and right relations in this world. I know you will, for generations to come, work against sexism, against misogyny, against heterosexism, against racism, against transphobia, against all of those practices that seek to divide us, to use people in oppressive ways. We know that loving, just communities are possible. It's hard work, always far from perfect, but it's wonderful sacred work. We can and must work for a world where all people can live fully. Let the power of their lives be expressed beautifully in beautiful right relations. And that includes the ability of any of us and all of us to express our genders and our sexualities with holiness and with integrity. Let this be a year when we can say to one another, Happy Pride, and let every year to come be such a year. Happy Pride. Happy Pride. Let's sing together as we finish our service, and we have a picnic. Number 1014, if you'd like to use the book, Answering the Call of Love. With pride that leads you to be fully who you are, to know the power of your love and your care for others, and to find joy and live it fully. Go in peace, be in peace. We'll be together again. And come to the picnic. Thank you.